Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's DinaKalmeta here, and for today's Thursday show, let's start with what's happening in Israel. Prophecy News Watch is reporting that the prophetic clock is ticking. Something remarkable and deeply prophetic just happened in Israel. In a quiet but symbolically thunderous event, a heifer was burned in Israel in accordance with biblical instructions found in Numbers 19. It wasn't a red heifer, the rare perfect animal required for temple purification, but it was a full-scale rehearsal. And in the eyes of many devout Jews and watchful Christians, it signals something far greater than the ritual itself: the accelerating movement towards rebuilding the Third Temple. For centuries, the Jewish Temple Mount has been a symbol of hope, identity, and unresolved yearning. But recent developments, both religious and geopolitical, are quickly transforming that longing into tangible preparation. While secular media may miss the significance, those familiar with Scripture, both Old and New Testaments, are sounding the alarm. The burning of the heifer may seem like a mere religious curiosity, but it is a gateway to reestablishing temple service. According to biblical law, the ashes of a red heifer are the only means by which somebody ritually defiled by contact with the recently perished can be purified. Since all Jews are presumed to be in such a state today, the restoration of temple sacrifice is impossible without the red heifer ashes. In other words, no ashes, no temple. This is why in 2022, 5 red heifers were brought to Israel from Texas under the supervision of the Temple Institute and other organizations committed to temple readiness. The recent burning using a different animal was a dress rehearsal, proof that Israel is not just dreaming about temple worship, but actively preparing for it. This is a seismic shift. The October 7th events was not only a military and political shock, it ignited a spiritual reckoning across Israel. Many secular Jews, disillusioned by their inability to rely on the IDF or political leaders for safety, have turned their eyes towards heaven. Synagogues have filled, Torah study has increased, and growing numbers of young Israelis are returning to observant Jewish practices. But there is more. The desire for a restored temple is no longer the fringe of a few faithful. It is becoming mainstream and even gaining political support. The Israeli government has shown increased openness to discussions once thought too political, such as Jewish prayer in the Temple Mount. Laws protecting religious expression are slowly shifting. Organizations like the Temple Institute and the Sanhedrin are gaining credibility and support. Priesthood registries have been created, temple utensils replicated, and garments tailored. Even the training of Levitical priests have already begun. All of this is stirring within a people once scattered and secular, now stirred by suffering and drawn toward their ancient identity. For Christians who take Bible prophecy seriously, this isn't just interesting news, it's earth-shattering. The scriptures teach that a third temple will exist in the last days. In fact, Jesus himself in Matthew 24:15 refers to the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place. Paul in 2 Thessalonians 2:4 speaks of the Antichrist exalting himself so that he sits as God in the temple of God. But for those things to occur, there must be a temple. This is where prophecy and preparation collide. The burning of a heifer, the rising of the religious Israelis, the political conversation around the Temple Mount. These are not isolated events. They are the early tremors of a coming quake. Finally, it reports that many Christians believe that the Third Temple will be rebuilt before or during the early days of the tribulation period. It will at first be a symbol of national pride and religious awakening, but it will soon be desecrated by the Antichrist, ushering in a time of global chaos, judgment, and ultimately the return of Christ. While Christians and Jews often share deep respect and a love for Scripture and a strong alliance, especially in the face of rising global hostilities, it's important to note that the Christian understanding of the temple's prophetic role is not shared by most in the Jewish community. In fact, most Jews find this interpretation troubling or even offensive, as it reframes their sacred traditions through a different theological lens. Yet this divergence serves to highlight the profound mystery and complexity of God's unfolding plan, seen differently through the eyes of each covenant. The Temple Mount is stirring, the people are awakening, and the world, once again, is watching Israel. This is really huge news, you guys. The fact that they're making preparations for the temple, detailed preparations, and rehearsing sacrifices. Again, it makes me go back to the Abraham Accords and wonder if inside those accords is a third temple. I don't know. I guess we'll find out soon enough. And I really do encourage you guys to go over there and check it out. They are another great site that reports on many different prophetic headlines that we're seeing in these last days. But since we're on the topic of Israel, there are reports that Israel and the U.S. are pondering additional strikes on Iran as intel shows partial success. According to officials speaking with NBC News, while the Fordo site is likely destroyed, 2 other facilities less damaged than reported in enrichment could resume in just months. The Trump administration officials developed an all-in plan to truly decimate Iran's nuclear capabilities through weeks of sustained bombing of 6 sites, but the president rejected it. But a fresh U.S. intelligence evaluation has determined that American airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities achieved only partial success. Discussions have taken place with both American and Israeli governments regarding whether additional strikes on the 2 less damaged facilities might be required if Iran fails to agree soon to restart negotiations with the Trump administration, or if signs emerge that Iran is attempting to rebuild at those locations. Iran has consistently maintained its nuclear program and says that it's purely peaceful and for civilian purposes. So it looks like there's a strong possibility that the U.S. and Israel can go back in there and completely decimate those nuclear facilities. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Just thought that that was very interesting and I wanted to bring it to you. Now, All Israel News is reporting that Iran's foreign minister took part in the meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization on Tuesday in the hopes of deepening the regime's ties with Russia and China. Despite an existing alliance as well as financial and security cooperation, both powers didn't offer Iran any substantial support during Israel's 12-day air campaign. But Iran's foreign minister called for broadening security cooperation between the SCO members, proposing a permanent mechanism to monitor, document, and coordinate responses to military aggression, acts of sabotage, and violations of national sovereignty of member states, referring to Israeli and U.S. strikes in Iran as an act of aggression. He also further advocated creating a regional security forum involving the member states' defense and intelligence agencies. Now, China plays a crucial role in the Iranian economy by offering an outlet for Iran's oil exports, while Russia and Iran have deepened their military cooperation through the production and sale of Iran's drones for Russia's war in Ukraine. But Iran's foreign minister did meet with the Chinese president and the Russian foreign minister on the sidelines of the event. And according to the readout, Yi vowed that China will continue to support Iran in safeguarding its state sovereignty and national dignity, resisting power politics and bullying acts. And after the meeting with Lavrov, Russia's foreign ministry, both parties reiterated the imperative of resolving the crisis surrounding Iran's nuclear program exclusively through political and diplomatic means in strict compliance with international law. Now, if you can remember that right after the strikes, Russia stated that they would help Iran rebuild their nuclear supply. So I wonder if that's still on the table. But it's just very interesting, the partnership between Iran, Russia, and China. 2 very big nuclear powers. Now, Breitbart News is reporting that NATO on Wednesday warned Brazil, China, India, and other heavy buyers of Russian oil that they could face stiff secondary sanctions if they keep doing business with Moscow. He stated, "My encouragement to these 3 countries particularly is if you live now in Beijing or in Delhi or are the president of Brazil, you might want to take a look into this because this might hit you very hard. So please make the phone call to Putin and tell him that he has to get serious about peace talks, because otherwise this will slam back on Brazil, India, and China in a massive way." He also referred to President Trump's threat of biting and very, very powerful secondary tariffs on Russia if President Putin does not make a peace deal in Ukraine within 50 days. So secondary tariffs would be a significant escalation over direct sanctions against Russia, which have been in place since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022. Russia was able to mitigate the impact of those sanctions by shifting its oil export business to eager buyers in China and India, who have a very big appetite for fossil fuels to power their industrial growth. But secondary tariffs would strike not the Russians, but countries that do business with Russia, adding a tremendous hazard that would make discounted Russian oil seem much less attractive. Trump mentioned 100% secondary tariffs, but there is currently a bill in the Senate that would make it 500%. This would be a bold move that affects a fairly long list of nations. The top buyers of Russian energy products include South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, and Turkey, which is a member of NATO. Some countries are additionally reliant upon Russian exports besides oil, coal, and gas. Brazil, for example, buys a great deal of fertilizer from Russian suppliers. So this is huge, you guys. If Russia does not make a peace deal with Ukraine, he's going to get hit hard, and not just him, but his allies that do business with him. And I'm sure he's not going to act kindly to the warning, or a better word, I guess, would be threat. You don't come to the table, you and your country are going to suffer big time. That's what it sounds like to me. But again, we'll see what happens. Time will tell. Newsweek is reporting that the U.S. has trained for the defense of the Panama Canal during a joint exercise with Central American country amid concerns over China's growing presence in the region. The exercise, codenamed Panamax Alpha Phase 1 and scheduled from July 13th to the 18th, was designed to reinforce preparation for threats to the security of the Panama Canal and other strategic infrastructure. U.S. Secretary of Defense previously warned of China's expanding military and economic presence and influence in the Western Hemisphere, a region long viewed as the United States' backyard, which includes Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. The Pentagon chief's warning follows U.S. President Trump's claim that China operates the Panama Canal. The canal, which the U.S. built, connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans and has been under Panama's control since 1999. Facing pressure from the Trump administration, Hong Kong-based C.K. Hutchison agreed in March to sell its stake in Panama's ports at the canal's Pacific and Atlantic entrances to an American-led consortium. Trump later declared victory over the $23 billion acquisition. The Joint Task Force Bravo of the U.S. Southern Command deployed 3 helicopters, 2 UH-60 Black Hawk and 1 CH-47 Chinook aircraft for the exercise, which took place at 3 air bases in Panama. Now in other news, The Guardian's reporting that 8 healthy babies were born after IVF using DNA from 3 people. Doctors in the UK have announced the birth of 8 healthy babies after performing a groundbreaking procedure that creates IVF embryos with DNA from 3 people to prevent the children from inheriting incurable genetic disorders. The mothers were all high risk for passing on life-threatening diseases to their babies due to mutations, the tiny structures that sit inside cells and provide the power they need to function. News of the births and the children's health has been long anticipated by doctors around the world after the UK changed the law to allow the procedure in 2015. The fertility regulator granted the first license in 2017 to a fertility clinic at Newcastle University where doctors pioneered the technique. The 4 boys and 4 girls, including 1 set of identical twins, were born to 7 women and have no signs of the mitochondrial diseases they were at risk of inheriting. 1 further pregnancy is ongoing. In other news, a massive fire has broken out near Area 51 in Nevada, and UFO conspiracy theorists fear historic evidence could be destroyed. Dramatic images have captured plumes of smoke erupting outside the remote Air Force base north of Las Vegas. The dangerous Gothic fire has been burning through Nevada for days, and the Bureau of Land Management, which is managing the incident, said it wasn't contained as of Monday. The blaze was sparked by a lightning strike that lit up trees in Clark County, just 45 minutes north of Las Vegas on July 4th. Now it's swelled from 9,000 acres to 35,000 and is burning on the Nevada Test and Training Range withdrawn lands, which are used for nuclear testing. A thick haze has also wafted all the way to Las Vegas from the brush fire, but no one is in danger or being evacuated, according to officials. Area 51 lies just north of the burning blaze, and surveillance footage recorded by a YouTuber exploded explore with us has captured the smoke rising dangerously close to the mysterious base. The camera is overlooking the Area 51 perimeter from private property, which is the closest settlement to the facility according to the YouTuber. Data released by Nevada says that the wildfire is burning just 15 miles away from the facility. So interesting. Now, I don't know if this is still burning towards Area 51. For my Vegas listeners out there, can you guys comment below and let me know? Let me know what you guys think. With that said, what happened in Alaska? Thousands of Americans along Alaska's coastline raced to higher ground on Wednesday, abandoning their homes after a major earthquake triggered a tsunami warning. The USGS detected a 7.3 magnitude at approximately 12:38 p.m., centered in the Pacific Ocean just south of the Alaska Peninsula. Sirens wailed and emergency alerts lit up phones across the region, warning residents across a vast stretch of southwestern Alaska, from Kennedy Entrance near Homer, to evacuate immediately. Officials also warned of potential tsunami impacts on Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, and parts of the eastern Aleutian Islands, with some areas expected to be hit first. So obviously there has not been a tsunami, but definitely a very large earthquake, a 7.3. You guys, these earthquakes are getting larger and larger, and they're coming closer and closer together. So prayers for Alaska, because they do have a volcano out there that's ready to blow as well. Tech explorers reporting that today's robots are stuck. Their bodies are usually closed systems that can neither grow nor self-repair, nor adapt to their environment. But now, scientists at Columbia University have developed robots that can physically grow, heal, and improve themselves by integrating material from their environment or from other robots. Described in a new study published in the Science Advances, this process, called robot metabolism, enables machines to absorb and reuse parts from other robots or their surroundings. True autonomy means robots must not only think for themselves, but also physically sustain themselves. They're going to make these things like little miniature gods, you guys. But it goes on further to report that just as biological life absorbs and integrates resources, these robots grow, adapt, and repair using materials from their environment or from other robots. They're trying to make robots like humans. What could possibly go wrong? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. So those are your headlines for today. I'd love to hear from all of you. So please do leave your comments below this video. When you have some time, come and visit us on our social media pages, as well as our website at www.cww7news.com. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and I will see you back here on Monday. God bless and stay safe.